So if y'all saw my last video, I'm studying biology and just the various sciences and still trying to figure this thing we call life out. My human experience while I'm still here. Trying to learn as much and soak as much of it as possible up, right? Okay, so the last video I put up, we talked about entropy, and I want to stay on that a little bit longer. And we know it's the second law of thermodynamics, and entropy is pretty much, in a nutshell, is disorder, right? Disorder of a system, a closed system. The natural tendency for disorder. But so how does that affect our relationships? And if you're married, if you got a girlfriend or somebody serious or significant other in your life, you want to protect against entropy. You want to guard against entropy. Entropy comes in so many different shapes, sizes, or forms. Entropy can come in the form of a person. It can come in the form of a object, a thing. It can show up at your doorstep in various ways. But the thing is to be knowledgeable and to be aware and understand what it is and what it isn't and how to defend against it, or rather not just defend, how to go on the offensive against it, so that you're proactive as opposed to reactive. So again, I talked about the honeymoon stage. You meet someone, you fall in love, la la la, blah blah blah, whatever, right? Love, whatever. I don't know about all that, but anyhow, y'all get what I'm saying. But you're in this state where you're excitedly blissful, and the reason for that is because of the newness. Right, it's you're in the, I call it the green state, because green represents, in the spring you have green, everything is new and fresh. So you're kind of like, you meet someone and all of a sudden the juices are flowing, chemistry is going, your chemicals are reacting to the whole novelty. That's the perfect word. It's a novel interaction. It's a novelty. It's breaking up the monotony of your boring life, right? Your life is boring as hell, right? So every day you go to work, routine, blah, blah, blah. You meet somebody on the train, on the bus, in the park, in the gym, wherever, right? You meet somebody. And all of a sudden, the monotony of your life has been jolted. It has been given an electrifying shock. So all of a sudden, you're in this state of bliss. And then entropy settles in, right? Entropy can settle in day two. Entropy can settle in same damn day for all you know, right? But entropy will settle in. And entropy is, as I mentioned before, it's a slow it's a very slow deterioration of all things in the universe, because that's what entropy means: disorder and chaos. The universe tends towards this. So we're governed by these scientific laws. We are governed by them because, again, we are the components or the makeup of the universe. We are the molecules, molecular structure of the universe. So we are governed by these rules and these laws. And so entropy begins to settle in. And so the question is, if you're in a relationship 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, a year, a couple of months, whatever, why do we get bored so quick, right? A lot of us, we become complacent or we become bored. If you're bored in your relationship, that is entropy at its best, at its height of its expression. So entropy is that, right? So the reason why you're bored in your relationship is entropy. Okay, the reason why a lot of relationships begin to deteriorate is entropy. It's the entropic process, and so the reason why I make these videos, or the reason I talk about this, is because so that you could. If it don't feel like you're the only one or your relationship is boring. No, everybody's relationship becomes boring. And I use the word becomes because there is a way to counter entropy, right? You counter entropy, and I made mention it before. Think of a salmon swimming upstream. If he doesn't swim upstream, he naturally goes downstream with the current, with the flow. The flow or the current going down in this analogy represents entropy. Entropy flows in one direction. Right? It's like if you study, what's his name? Oh gosh, his name slipped my head. I can't believe I can't remember. General relativity, Einstein. How can I not remember that? But if you study like general relativity, or if you study some of his teachings, he talks about the arrows of time, and in the arrow of time, it's like time space continuum. He talks about time space continuum, and he talks about how. I read this book, and he's talking about how the arrows of time, meaning time is one directional. It goes in one direction from beginning till end. Throughout all, time never goes in another direction. It's one dimensional. Well, that's entropy. Entropy actually goes hand in hand with their symbiotic, I guess. Yeah, they're like dating or whatever, because or they're married because they're both going one direction. Entropy goes in one direction, and I gave you an example before. A scrambled egg cannot unscramble itself. An unkept room cannot clean up itself. This is why I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory, because you can't get order out of disorder. You can't get something that's structured, meticulous design out of something that is confusingly perplexed. In other words, I'm sure you get what I'm saying, but a puzzle can't like put itself together, right? Like you could throw a puzzle up in the air and all the pieces just fall all over the place. They're not going to fall perfectly in shape and in size and line, and then you have a picture. No, that's not happening. So entropy is in one direction and one direction only. It only deteriorates over time. It's the evolution of deterioration. I just came up with that. That sounds just about right. Evolution of deterioration. Over time, it naturally deteriorates. So your relationship falls within the guidelines or the templates of entropy. Your relationship naturally is going to deteriorate. Sorry to tell you. Hate to burst your bubble, but these are the realities, right? The question is, do you become a victim of it, or do you recognize it and figure out how to either slow down the process or, I'm thinking, let me see. Either you slow down the process or you just let the process slow you down, right? This is just one way or the other. But be that as it may, the important thing that we take away from this is to understand that when you do fall into the throes or the valleys of entropy, that you be like the live salmon and swim your way out, right? Swim upstream, meaning you have to. This is why a lot of people give up, because it requires energy, right? To combat the forces of entropy, you have to have a greater force to combat the forces of entropy, and that takes energy on your part. So this is why people say relationships are work. This is why people say relationships fail often. This is why relationships are so hard. Because they are. It's not supposed to be easy. It is. It's supposed to be hard, because this is what entropy. This is the universe. These are the laws that govern us. But not to despair. Don't be despondent, or don't despair. Don't lose hope, because there is measures. There is practical, applicable steps that we all can take to combat the entropic state of the universe. And again, that is, you combat it with your own energetic input. You have to put energy in. You put positive energy in, and the universe still has. There's other laws that benefit us. That as you sow, so shall you reap. So if you're putting in positive energy constantly into yourself, first of all, not just your relationships, but put positive energy into yourself, then you yourself will vibrate on a higher resonance or higher frequency, and that will carry over into your relationship, and your relationship itself as a unit will elevate. Here's why, and here's the law behind that. As I mentioned before, our atoms reside or settle in the infrared state, which is a low energy state. But when the same laws, I spoke about photobiology before, absorption spectrum. Once an atom absorbs a photon, which is light, a positive light in this regards. Once an atom or an electron, which is within the atom, once it absorbs a photon, it has to elevate. This is the laws. An electron cannot absorb photon, which is light, and stay in the same low energy state. It has to move. It's actually called promoted. It's promoted. It's promoted to a higher frequency or a higher state. And once a molecule absorbs a photon, one or more photons, which is light. Once it absorbs light, it has to move to a higher state. So if you're letting yourself be fed by the right kind of energies, whether it's by meditation, by your studying, your constant, communication with your God, your higher power, your God self, you're naturally going to elevate. You can't be receiving this and stay. Think of a helium balloon, right? If the helium gets in the balloon, it has to float up in the air. It has to. We can't get the helium in it and stay grounded. So it has to float up, right? So Excuse that, my light went out. But yeah, so no pun intended. I'm talking about light, and then my light goes out, right? But so yeah, make sure that you're feeding yourself the right energies and the right lights, and you'll naturally will be able to combat the second law of thermodynamics, and hopefully that can help you along your way. All right, till next time.